Hello, this is another vlog. I'm kind of going crazy over here. Um, just with nervousness. I feel like I might pass out. Almost like I feel like I might puke or something. But um, yeah, I'll explain why. So I use these dating apps. It's a stupid idea. They're just a humiliation ritual mostly. Um, but I use them and um, everybody knows top or 80% of women go for the top 20% of guys, something like this, and it's just like degeneration or whatever, degeneracy. Um, but that's how everybody seems to be meeting these days. That's how a lot of relationships start. But anyway, I switched my location to down in the States in Florida, around Tampa. I live in Canada, but I've actually been to Florida before, and I really liked Florida. I like the people. Um, but that was back in 2017, and anyways, I matched with this girl, and I get different matches. I don't get a ton or anything. If you look at, it's funny, they do experiments. You can look at them. It's like if you're a hot woman, like an attractive woman, they get like 4,000 matches a day or something. I don't know if it's 4,000 a day, but it's just insane. Like in a city or whatever, if it's an attractive woman, they just get constant matches, and it's funny because it's just the guys like the photo and everything. But I matched with this girl, and then I said to her like, you can sing that song to our kids, like, because she was singing a song in one of her videos, and it said she wanted children, and she was, really like this, and she was wanted that, like, she was saying that she wants kids and stuff, and then so we were talking and we were sending voice notes, and it makes me nervous. Like, if things start to go well, it makes me nervous. Does that make any sense? Like, I'm not used to things going well. And the reason I get nervous is because if I start to think that things are going well and like get comfortable with that, that just is like says to me that, things are going to go worse, and it's just going to hurt. It's going to hurt more, because it's like, yeah, so I have like a fear of delusion. Like, well, is it just a delusion? Another delusion? Because I've talked to girls online before and done like long distance dating, which is a huge mistake. Always such a mistake. Don't do it. But it was like delusional, and that's the thing that I really hate, and it's a huge waste of time, and it kind of like feels good, but it's just a waste of time. And then also, it's not like normal either, because you're just looking at your phone, and if you get into the habit of Snapchat, that's such a huge waste of time. Snapchat is such a trap and a huge waste of time. It's just totally retarded. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but it really does get to be so stupid. But I used to do that, and you're sending messages back and forth, and you're waiting for the other person to reply, and sometimes you're timing your messages based on the time that they send it back, and a lot of times they're doing kind of the similar thing, and it's just retarded, like, honestly. And I'm 30 years old, by the way. So, like, at some point you have to get over that, and it's a better idea to get over that or to never start that, but to get over that when you're like, if you're a teenager, or it would be ideal to never even do that, because the entire thing, the entire process is a waste of time and energy. That's what I think. because it's like the technology, it screwed us. Like, it's not a good thing. Technology's not been good for a lot of people like it was advertised, or like we might think it is or was going to be. But it's actually been like, it's been like a parasite in a way for feeling good. Like, it's just exploited that. Like, the way I think about it a lot of the times is that, well, everything is energy, like a flow of energy. We're all just like a flow of energy. And bear with me, and then we interact with each other, right? And we do things and we create things or we destroy things, but it's all a flow of energy, and ultimately that comes from God. That's my belief, right? But if you think of that like a river, well, what a lot of this technology has done is like just put something in the river to like suck water out of it, and now it's like a trickle, So I just feel like it's done that a lot to people, because like these things need people to be using them in order for them to be successful or anything like that. Like, everything, a lot of stuff just depends on people using it, and that's what makes it successful a lot of the time. But it's the energy that people are putting into it. And a lot of this stuff, this technology stuff, it's not like they're enhancing or facilitating or improving people's energy usage or like helping it be better. It's just siphoning off the good, because it, takes advantage of your social desires and stuff like that. Like your, everybody talks about dopamine, but your reward system, it just takes advantage of that stuff. And the worst part is that if everybody else is using it, you want to use it too, because you don't want to be left out, right? And people, when they feel lonely, they have an extreme feeling like they want to be with other people, they want to know other people, they want to talk to other people, they want to talk about themselves with other people or talk about other topics. But basically it's like people want that, and then the technology has just like promised that it could facilitate that more or make that better or whatever, and it really hasn't. And so I don't think it's a good thing. And then there's a lot of people that don't understand anything, and they think, oh well, that would just happen anyway, like people would feel not good anyway. If you look at the statistics, people feel like shit, okay? Especially young people, like they're messed up, like it's not a good thing. It's messing with people. And but anyway, big rant, digression. But yeah, I don't want to get into like delusion and just feel let down, because a lot of times that's what ends up happening. I remember when I was like, I think I got my first car when I was 18, and it was like a minivan. It was like an old minivan. My dad gave it to me. It was not like a very nice car or anything, but I loved it. I was so happy that I had a vehicle to drive. And what I thought was that now that I have this minivan, my life is just going to improve so much. Everything's going to be great. I'm going to be going places, because before that, I used to be at home, stuck at home like all the time. And we lived, when I was growing up, we lived out of the, like, not out of the city, but on the very like edge of the city. And the city's very sprawled out. So if you live like on the edge or kind of like in a suburb, and I lived in like the ghetto, like a very poor suburb or poor area of the city, it was hard to get anywhere. You had to take at least 2 buses most of the time. And it was also like extremely cold, and it just was boring, and it was like I was inside all the time, and I wanted to do things. And when you're growing up, you go to school, and then you want to spend time with your friends or people from school, and you hear about stuff, and other people are hanging out and they're going to each other's houses, which seems pretty normal, right? But if you're not able to do that, you just feel like so left out. You feel so bad. And so in my head, I thought, well, now I have this minivan. I have the ability to drive and go to people's houses and do all this stuff. But I don't know if I was already graduated. I'm not sure. But what ended up happening was it was nothing like that. I was able to drive around places, and I had all this energy to do stuff, but it wasn't like a transformation like I wanted it to be or thought it would be. So that's a tough thing when stuff like that happens, right? And I didn't really know at the time, but you really have to make things happen, and it's not easy to make things happen either. So anyway, another rant, but it's just the let down feeling. It sucks. But this girl, she wants kids. She's beautiful, in my opinion. She's my type. She's tall, she's blonde, she's has blue eyes, and she said she's from like Scandinavia or Sweden or something like that, and like one of those countries. And she's not woke, which I really appreciate. Although I've only talked to her for like a little bit, so I don't, I'm not trying to say a whole bunch of stuff, but this is just stuff that is making me nervous, because I'm like, I like this person, but she's not woke. She's like, Canada is filled with Indians. I was like, yeah, I know. And she was saying that she wants white children, and me too. Like that's what I want as well. And I know that kind of sounds racist or bad, but she's like, call me racist, I don't care. I said the same thing. I was like, yeah, I don't care if people call me racist, because at this point, everything is so browned and blacked, like getting browner and blacker, that it's just ridiculous. Like, I think after World War II, the world's population was like 30% white. Now it's like 7 or 8%, or some people say 10%, but it's just projected to keep falling. And yet white people are so chained to not think or talk about it or anything, and also just mind warped, where they want to exterminate themselves indirectly, because they won't even think about children or whatever. And they've been white people have been indoctrinated so young as well, like especially women, like young white women, to where they don't even realize or think about having children, or think that it's like an option until they're 30. It's like, what, are you going to have like one child? The fertility rate is like cut in half, like by the time you're 30 as a woman, I think. And you also don't have as much energy. People think when they're younger, I think, they think that they have the same amount of energy, or will have the same amount of energy when they're older. Not quite, and not so. And so anyways, a lot of that just gets delayed or deferred, because people have these ideas about career and travel most of the time, or other stuff. But that's all like a huge, I would say, pitfall or diversion from what will really make you happy. And those people, it's funny, because they often think like, oh, I want these experiences, and those experiences will make me happy, the memories and the quote connections and everything. But what statistically is shown to make you happier is actually having children. And for women, that's a huge deal, because when they get older, they kind of go crazy, like if they haven't had children. And not trying to be mean or anything, but yeah. And if you look at the stats in Canada, it's a huge percentage of women that are younger, they just have no children. And so all these women are just kind of going crazy, not trying to be mean or anything, but really that's what's happening. And yeah, so That's a tough one. That's a really tough one for the society. All right, but this girl, she said she wants me to come down there, and it makes me nervous. You know, makes me nervous. And she seems very nice, so yeah, makes me very nervous. So I felt actually excited when I saw that, and I said, yeah, I'd come down, and also we're talking on like voice message as well, but it makes me really nervous, and so I was thinking about it, and I was like, I would really like to do that, but then also I think to myself, like, Jesus is the way. So I was actually earlier I was reading the Bible today. I go to the library and I read the Bible and I try and copy out passages so that I can remember them, or so if I talk to people I can pull it up from a notebook. But one of them, it was just Jesus was saying, "Sell everything and follow me." I think it was in Luke 11 or 12, but he was saying that to the people hearing him. And I often think what should I be doing with my life, And I know it sounds like a stupid or a naive question because again, I'm 30 years old. But the thing is, it's why does it never change? Why don't I really have the clear answer or idea? And the thing is, when you talk to people, if you ask people about this stuff, they will F you up. It's so difficult because if you talk to people about this stuff, they will screw you up, because basically what happens, and this has happened to me when I was younger, is that they start trying to live themselves through you. And it's dude, oh my goodness. And it's hard to decide for yourself, for myself, but yeah, and I know it sounds crazy or anything, but I'm just being real here. The other thing is, I've been taking nattokinase. I took it yesterday for the first time, and I took it twice today, and it actually helps me to feel good. I actually feel good when I take it. I feel more normal as well. So yeah, this is me being normal, I guess. Still kind of crazy, but at least I'm more self-aware, or I feel a bit better as well. I just kind of always felt in pain before, and I didn't even want to talk about it, because it was if I was to talk about it, it was I was just whining, and felt like I was just whining and complaining, and nothing would change or come of it. But the nattokinase, it actually helped me to feel good, and I felt like just a genuine calm, and happiness as well. Not just a calm, but a happiness, almost something that was restricting me from feeling anything good had been kind of taken away for just a little while. And when I was walking outside, I actually felt good. So that's a huge deal. I recommend nattokinase to people who have taken the COVID vaccine, because 100% of people who have taken the COVID vaccine have amyloid microclots in their blood. And if you take nattokinase, it has the ability to dissolve it. It was shown in a study to dissolve 84% of amyloid microclots. And I think just a lot of people are feeling just kind of generally bad or generally down, and even more so since the COVID pandemic. So yeah, it's surprising that it helps so much. But yeah, anyway. So anyways, I'm trying to connect my faith, my feelings, and my knowledge together, because a lot of times I just cut off my feelings in order to just kind of be a robot, but it's so difficult to do that. And now that I've taken the nattokinase, like I can feel things more, but I also have to try and remember like the faith and the knowledge parts too. And then here's another thing that's going on that's so embarrassing. And I'm not saying this stuff to like humiliate myself. I'm saying it as like an acknowledgement, just like a real thing about my life. And then other people may relate and probably not, but at least this is like some bit of reality. And I hope people don't try and make fun of me for this, but I already gave like the acknowledgement. This is just reality, right? And anyway, I'm trying to improve it. But when I'm talking to this girl who's attractive, I keep getting like erections, and I'm not trying to be gross or ribald or salacious or crass or anything like that, but that literally happens to me, and it's because my whole like sexual system is like messed up because of all the stuff that happened to me when I was a kid, like sexual abuse stuff and you know, pornography, like exposure and everything, and then all of that, and you know, masturbating throughout my life, like that's, it messes up your brain, like your brain's reward and connections stuff gets messed up, right? So it's not healthy. But I think it's, for some people, it's kind of like a normal thing, that they at least teach you about, that can happen to, you know, men as they're, or boys or whatever, adolescents as they're growing up. I know it's like a kind of a weird biology lesson or sex ed or whatever, family life, whatever they call it, lesson, but that's what they teach you in school. And it's embarrassing, but I mean, I try and control it. Like before, I would just like give into urges and stuff like that. And now though, and this is only through faith, like basically through faith and praying. And I cross myself a lot of the time, like when I get these kind of embarrassing urges, like, or things happen, I cross myself like this. I go like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and I'll just do that even if I'm walking outside. And I'm trying to make more of a habit of doing that because that's what the saints tell us to do, to cross yourself. And the other thing that I do, and it's another nervous habit, I have like these two nervous habits that I used to have throughout my life. One was like masturbation, and it's so embarrassing, but legitimately that was like a nervous habit, or like something to like self-soothe. And it's embarrassing, okay? Just try to acknowledge that, but while at the same time still saying like that was a habit that I did. And then the other thing is nail biting. And so these are two things I've always wanted to like not do. And it's tough because it's almost like they're like an unconscious thing. It's like there's like a different part of you that takes over or control. And I'm not really too sure what exactly that part is, because it could be like a learned behavior pattern thing, process addiction, you know, that's what they would call it in psychology terms. You wouldn't call it you wouldn't say like it's an addiction, like you're addicted to porn or addicted to masturbation. You would call it a process addiction, and so you would get addicted to the process. That's what they call that. So it's a form of process addiction apparently in those terms, but in the other terms, you could think like, well, it's like a lust demon, or like being attacked by like a demon. And that like, I actually get confused because I know all of this stuff. Like I know there's these different paradigms, and I wonder about how, if they overlap, or if they're side to side, if they're parallel, if they're connected, if one's correct and one's not. You know, so these are questions that I have, or if they're both true, if it's like not an either or, if it's a both and. But it gets confusing, you know. So, but either way though, these are things that I kind of like don't want to do, you know. And I feel like I actually feel like angry and embarrassed and anxious and depressed about having like high neuroticism, which is another way of saying I feel angry or embarrassed or depressed or anxious or ashamed about feeling those feelings. So it's a really terrible thing, and it feels like a curse, like at times from my mother or my father, because and my family, because um, like where else do you get that stuff from, right? And the thing is that when you're a kid, or if you're growing up, or if you lived in the, you know, before the 2000s, or before a lot of this information became widespread, you might think, um, it's your fault, or this is just what you have to put up with, or whatever. And your parents, I don't even know. It's just like, um, it's a tough thing. But now I know, like, and I've researched, I've gone to school for this stuff. I know a lot of it's just genetic. Like they say, people think that your brain is 50-50 from your mother and your father. That's not actually true. It is a mix, but some areas can be completely from your mother and some areas can be completely from your father. And so if someone says, you got that from your mom, you got that from your dad, that can be 100% true, that you got 100% of that area of your brain from your mom or from your dad. That's like part of, your behaviors or your skills or whatever it is, or your idiosyncrasies. But I just yeah, I feel like it's like a curse. Like I feel angry about it, that I have to deal with this. Um, Effectively, how I view it is like failings of my family, failings of my mother, failings of my father. It makes me angry because I'm like, why did you guys not know any of this stuff? Why did you not do anything properly? And yet they're, at least my mom was putting in so much energy, but doing it all wrong. And that's what makes me angry, because it's like, it's not just about effort. It's about, you actually have to love your children. You actually have to um, provide like certain things like stability and all of that. But then it makes me, it's like frustrating because I can't, it's like I cannot ever do anything about it to get out of it or even talk about it, because then it's like, oh well, my dad beat her up, and then, oh, my dad's dad was like an alcoholic, or beat his, or I don't know if he beat his wife or his uh I'm not even sure, but and then my dad's mom died very young. It's like, so what, it's like, it feels like, what can you do? Like it feels like it just feels like you're the can and you've been kicked down the road for like 30 miles, or like the can has been kicked down the road for 30 miles and now it's your stretch, and you're like, I don't want to kick this can for another, you know, 10 miles or 5 miles or whatever. I just want to figure this out and stop kicking the can. Like, it's like the buck keeps getting passed. But that's how a lot of it feels genuinely when you pry into some of these things that are going on. If you open up like the can of worms in society and with people's lives, it literally, it's just like a Pandora's box, like can of worms. And a lot of stuff is just like band-aid solution. What do we do to get to another day? How do we cope? How do we, all of that stuff? And that actually makes me frustrated. Like, I don't like that type of thought and everything. What I like is acceptance. Like, personally, I've always really liked acceptance. That I've liked. And I also like higher emotions than acceptance, or higher feelings. But I feel like a lot of it starts with acceptance. Like, it starts with just like having the courage, or the faith, or the ability to even ask for faith, or to even ask for acceptance. And then it's like, okay, now we accept that we're in this terrible position or whatever, and I have all my own faults that I've done, and you know, you can't even really say that for somebody else because they have to say that for themselves. That's the hard part. It's like, you know, you can only almost, it's almost like you can only do it for yourself. Other people have to do it for themselves, but the hard part is that they don't. They do not. Other people just don't do it. They just don't do it. It's like they'll never do it. And that's the hard part, because it's like you're just dealing with like a a pile of mush or jello. You know, when you try and like, okay, let's do this. You know, you have to read this book. You have to do these things. I here's everything. I've researched it. I've done all the schoolwork. This is what you have to do. And you're trying to like grab them and pull them up, and they just slip through your fingers and fall back into a puddle. It's like, man, it's so frustrating, right? And then part of it is it's just like, okay, well, I'm pissed off. I just don't want to deal with it. I want to move on. And then it's like you almost like you can't. It's like you can't. Like, it's like almost like I can't. Like, how can I move on? Like, my family's destroyed. Every time you talk to other people, they want to know about you. They want to know about your family. They want to know about your life. And so what does that necessitate? You have, if you want to be honest, with other people, then it's like you have to tell them about your life and what's honestly going on. It's like, okay, so let's talk about how my family's destroyed. It's like, dude, I don't want to do that with people, you know? I do that with a therapist, and it's even hard with a therapist because they're almost like kind of effed up too. I'm not trying to be mean to them, but it's just like, when? Like, when can I just, you know, get to the starting line? Jeez Louise. But the starting line is Jesus, so the reason why I say that is because Jesus is the way, so it's a tough one. I had to go on that big rant there. It actually helps. You know, I don't really have anyone to talk to. Not really. I'm 30 years old. I'm a man, and I live in like a dying society where it's like a lot of the guys are just faggots. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not trying to be super mean or anything, but it's like we've been turned into faggots. Like, and I mean that, like, biologically, like hormonally, and also just culturally. Because we can't say anything. You're not even supposed to say that word. And but the testosterone levels of guys has dropped. It's cut in half by like, or it's been cut in half since, I think like 100 years ago or something like that. Might have been more recent. But the testosterone level in men has gone like cut in half. And a lot of young guys have the testosterone level of like old men. Why do I bring that up? Because it makes men effeminate. It makes them more like, it makes them more prone to lying. I don't know if you knew that, but there's a study that showed that men who have a higher testosterone are more likely to hold to their beliefs and their opinions in under social pressure. So that's just factual, like, yeah. And it's like, why is our testosterone so tanked? Microplastics like BPA and everything in those like hot to-go cups. If you get a coffee, if you get a tea or whatever in a disposable cup, the lining on it, it reacts to the hot water and it releases endocrine disruptors. Your endocrine system is your hormone system, so it'll disrupt your hormones. And then a lot of the stuff in our food, it's just like other stuff. It just makes men really effeminate. And so what does that do? Well, one, men have no backbone. They're just pleasure-seeking, comfort-seeking all the time. And then they're also nihilistic because everything is like relativized and perspective, apparently. That's what we get taught in school, which is retarded. So people don't even have like a starting point. And I'm saying this not just like my own opinions. I actually worked with children and youth like under 19, and I was helping them like I was a support worker. And my coworkers thinking, and this is like a woman, I'm not trying to be mean here, I'm just saying like this is a factual example, maybe anecdotal, but this is how this is what people think is a good idea to do for kids, is they teach kids to take perspectives of other kids. They try and do that to kids. This is a bad idea. I'll tell you why. Children do not have a fully developed sense of identity, and this is just developmental because of how the brain is forming. It's like they're in like the egocentric phase, something like this, but it's like they can't really do that where they have to take other people's perspective. It messes them up. They really need to be able to like take their own perspective until their brain is formed and they reach the next stage, and you naturally will get to another stage where you do take perspectives. But my coworkers like telling like young kids like take the perspective of your friend. And I was trying to tell her like that's a bad idea, you know. Kids, their brains don't function like adults, right? Perspective taking for adults theoretically is easy, but you actually have to have your IQ at like a certain threshold, I believe. And it's a lot harder if your IQ is lower. But yeah, I'm just looking. There's like an old lady gone on to her balcony to have a cigarette. Kind of don't like it because she's always looking over here. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, dying society, and but also everyone has problems, and so that's why I make these vlogs, because I don't really have anyone to talk to, so I'll make these vlogs, and at least I can be real, you know, about them. And it's funny because you know, before, like, I used to worry so much about what I would say, but it's like no one really cares, right? And everyone's thinking about themselves. And 91% of your worries don't even come true. That was like in a study, your worries and your anxieties. But yeah, Jesus says to sell everything and follow me. It's hard for me to make choices in life. I feel like, and this is going to sound mean, but I feel like I have a loser family. And I know it sounds really mean, but that's how I feel. And it makes me angry, and I feel like rejected by my family and put in an impossible position, quote unquote impossible. Although it is, I realize it's possible with God, but it's still very hard. And the other thing is that, you know, I realize it's impossible, but God actually puts you through challenges because He has something better for you. I heard that as a quote from one of the saints, which I appreciate it, actually. I really appreciate it. But yeah, it's hard for me to make choices in life because my family didn't have any like guidance for me. You know, my dad wasn't around. And my mom, you know, women, they're not very good at like they're not very good at like raising men. They're good at raising children. But when it comes to like when you get older, if you're like a boy turning into like a teenager into like a young man, your mother like doesn't really have that ability, I don't think, to raise like a successful man, because she doesn't know what it really means or is like to be a man. And that's not a fault of her own, that's just a natural thing. But like women they're great with young kids because like naturally that's, you know, something that they're evolved, or I don't know, it's like in their nature. But you need like a father as well to be around. And my dad did come back around, but I was older. I was like, by that time I was like 16, and he treated me like a friend. It was very weird. And he, like, when I hadn't seen him for I don't even know, like 10 years or something like that. And he would show up like sporadically, but he says to me like, "Are you my kid?" I was like, "Why would you even say that?" You know? And he was like joking around about it. It's like, yeah, it's a real big fucking joke. It's really hilarious. But no, it's not. It's actually really really hurtful, and it sucks. It's like you created a huge mess and now you're joking around about it because you don't know what to do. So it just makes me mad. That's what I'm saying. But um oh, okay, but what I was trying to say is it just makes it hard to make decisions because when you don't have those examples when you're young, kids, they really want to latch on to something, and that's like a natural thing, and they also want to be like their parents or whoever they look up to. And when people are young, when they're kids, they don't really have a frame of reference. You get that when you're older, and people can try and teach it to you when you're a kid, but it may not really make sense to children. But you kind of like think of like what's possible in terms of a lot of the time what you see. You could be a very precocious young child and read books and understand all this stuff from reading, but that's kind of the story of Matilda, but that movie. But yeah, it's it's a tough one because my family just didn't give me like any like good guidance, and a lot of the times they would give me guidance that was like in the negative. Like they would say like what you shouldn't do. They just kept saying like don't do, don't do, don't do, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. They'll never tell you what to do, and that is like the part that kind of drives you crazy, at least for me, because it just makes you not want to do anything. It just puts you in like a state of anxiety, and it makes it worse, and then you're checking for reassurance, and they're just keep telling you, okay, just don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. But they never tell you like what to do. They never teach you anything. Like they don't teach you the how things function so that you can just be confident about knowing, okay, well, this didn't work out, but on the next 3 tries it should. You're like stressed out because something doesn't work out the first time. And yeah, it's a bad thing, and it's legitimately, and people talk about this a lot now, but it's like a brain wiring thing, and it's like if you keep spiking kids, I think it's cortisol, or it's something. I know cortisol is a stress hormone, but if you keep spiking, let's say, cortisol in children, you keep spiking it in somebody, well, eventually you just draw a line at the top of those spikes, and that's going to be their baseline. And then people talk about this as the window of tolerance. And if you go to any kind of therapy session, they'll try and talk to you about the window of tolerance, perhaps. But now your window of tolerance is at the top of those cortisol spikes. So it's almost like you're living up there. And you don't even realize it. This is the thing. People can't, sometimes like, people don't even realize, if you get really into all these like trauma books and everything, they try and explain this to you, but you can live in those extremely stressed states, and tons of people do. I'm not making this up. I'm not trying to like exaggerate or make this up, but a ton of people actually do live in those states all the time, and it sucks. It is not something you want to be in. It just feels awful. It's like you're in a cycle. You feel like you're in like a like trapped in a pattern. You're stressed out all the time. Your heartbeat starts racing a lot. You can feel faint. You can feel like puking. If that keeps happening, then you can slip into depression very easily. You can be depressed. You can spend a lot of time by yourself. You go on to self-soothing behaviors like on the TV or on computer or on social media, and then you're doing that for long periods of time, and you can go crazy because you get